Lately, I've been feeling something that I can't quite shake. It's not panic and it's not anger. It's more like heaviness. And reading through the comments of my videos, I get the same feeling many in my community are dealing with the same issue. Everywhere I look, people, they seem tired, not just from the usual grind, but from trying to keep everything together while the world around them feels like it's slowly unraveling. So let's talk about it. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel, we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. I had a viewer recently that left a comment on one of my videos that really stuck with me, and they said, each week gets crazier. What's the tipping point? And I think that's a great question, and I think many of us are likely feeling the same way and wondering the same thing. Because if you've been paying attention, it does feel like every week brings another headline, another crisis, another reminder that stability now feels more like an illusion than a guarantee. Before I do jump into this video, I want to acknowledge something a little awkward. At the beginning of the year, we book sponsors who pay for a significant portion of what we do on this channel, from our team to the equipment that we buy. And typically on Fridays, we do a news segment. But today, I wanted to pull back for a moment from our standard format and just connect with you. As such, introducing a sponsor in the middle of a conversation is admittedly a bit odd, so I'm just giving you a heads up. For those who have been around a while, it wasn't that long ago that stability was a given. Now it feels like we're holding our breath, waiting for something to give, to snap. And even though everyone feels it, few really want to talk about it, because admitting something's off, that maybe the systems that we depend on aren't working the way they should, it really forces us to face some uncomfortable truths. And when we pull back far enough, we can see that this is not just about one person, a party, or an administration. It's been building for decades. I mean, sure, it feels like we're reaching a crescendo right now, but this drift, it started a while back. And the people that we put in charge have slowly lost focus on those who trusted them. Somewhere along the line, the responsibility shifted from serving the people to serving the system. And that system, it's heavier, it's slower, and it's more disconnected from the people it's supposed to represent. And you can feel it in how policies that sound great on paper end up making life harder. You can see it every time there's another government shutdown, when essential workers are asked to hang tight while the people responsible still collect paychecks. And meanwhile, what do? We just quietly adjust. We make sacrifices just to stay afloat while being told everything's fine. And that's, I think, what's really breaking people down. Not just a financial strain, but the sense that no one up there really gets it. And while they debate and posture, we're the ones paying more at the grocery store and struggling with healthcare costs. The policies currently being recommended by this administration, if they're implemented, we could see our premiums on our medical insurance double, thus continuing to erode our paychecks even further. But here's the frustrating part. This is not new. It's different leaders, different slogans, but the same results. So before I continue in this discussion, here's the ad read I mentioned earlier. Thanks to Copure for sponsoring this YouTube ad-free video. A recent U.S. Geological Survey study found traces of pharmaceuticals in nearly every water source tested across the country. And many of those drugs make it through public treatment systems and straight into our taps. Think about that for a second. Everything from antibiotics to painkillers to hormone disruptors and antidepressants. They all end up in the same water that we drink and cook with every single day. And most people assume the refrigerator or pitcher filter can handle that, but the truth is they barely touch these kinds of contaminants. That's why my family and I rely on Copure every single day. It's lab certified to remove up to 99% of impurities, including pharmaceutical residue, PFAs, forever chemicals, fluoride, arsenic, and bacteria, things that regular filters simply can't eliminate. The result is water that tastes clean, feels refreshing, and gives me real peace of mind knowing what's not in it. And the setup couldn't be easier. No plumbing or tools were required. Just fill it up, plug it in in seconds you've got pure, great tasting water, hot or cold, ready whenever you need it. In uncertain times, I don't gamble with my family's health, and you shouldn't either. Visit copure.com/cityprepping to get $200 off your system today. All right, so picking up where I just left off. Every few years, there's a promise to fix it. Yet, here we are, watching the same movie with a different cast. We are rearranging chairs on a sinking ship with a new captain every few years. And people aren't just angry, they're disillusioned and they're becoming more cynical. And I believe that's by design to get people to disengage. The system isn't broken from one bad decision. It's been neglected for so long that it's running on autopilot. And while it spins its wheels, we're dealing with the fallout. There are higher costs, less stability, more uncertainty. But beneath that frustration, I think something else is happening. People are starting to see things clearly. They're realizing that waiting for someone else to fix things, it's not working. In this community, we've understood that principle for years, and now more people are catching on. And maybe the solution won't come from up there at all. It's going to really come from us, from the ground up. And that realization, as uncomfortable as it may be, it might just be the turning point. Because when you stop expecting the system to save you, you start taking steps to save yourself. And you can feel it everywhere. In conversations at work, in the checkout line, in the quiet moments before paying bills, people are really stretched thin. And they're doing everything they can, and somehow it's still not enough. And this is not just about money. It's also emotional, mental, like running a race that keeps getting longer while the finish line moves farther away. You wake up, you scroll the news, and before your first cup of coffee, you're already overwhelmed. Another crisis, another shutdown, another reminder that the people we've trusted are really too busy arguing to notice how much pressure everyone else is under. Families, they tighten budgets, they cut back, they find creative ways to make things work. Because when the system wobbles, it's regular people who absorb the shock. Parents deciding between medicine and car repairs. Small business owners wondering if they can stay afloat even one more month. Young couples that are priced out of homes that no longer make sense. And that's the real story. And most people, they already know it. They just don't say it out loud because it feels like nobody's listening. But quietly, I think people are adapting. Complaining about broken systems, it doesn't fix them. So what are we doing? We're learning new skills, budgeting smarter, leaning on neighbors, and simplifying our lives. And they're doing what my grandparents did before prepping really even had a name. They're adjusting and preparing for uncertain times. And I believe that's where hope lives. The more people realize the system won't catch them, the more they start building their own safety nets. And that's not weakness, that's strength. It's what built communities long before modern systems existed. So yes, the weight is real, the frustration is real and justifiable. But so is the quiet strength rising underneath it. And that shift in mindset, that quiet strength is what's going to carry us through whatever comes next. When everything around you feels unstable, it's really easy to believe nothing you do matters. But that's not true. This is a time when the small, steady things you can control matter the most. And preparedness, it's always been more than just food, water, or gear. And at its core, it's about reclaiming control, starting with yourself. And that begins with mindset. I've had to check mine lately. There have been moments when I've felt that same frustration and fatigue, times when I thought I'd finally catch my breath and another wave hits. And when you watch the same dysfunction year after year, it's easy to lose patience. But every time I start to spiral, I remind myself, I can't change the system, but I can change how I respond to it. And that's where mental preparedness really comes in, staying calm when the noise gets loud. Stepping back for a moment and saying, okay, what can I actually do right now? We don't really talk about mental fortitude a lot in this community, but given everything that's happening right now, I can't think of a more pressing topic. My advice is to start by protecting your focus. What are you feeding your mind every day? If it's constant outrage and negativity, then no wonder you're going to feel overwhelmed. You can't fill your mind with chaos and expect peace. So I'd encourage you to limit it. Check the news, get what you need, and walk away. Spend more time doing than doom scrolling. And that one small change alone can shift your perspective. Next, I would encourage you to simplify. When the world gets complicated, strip it back to the basics. Create routines. They anchor you when everything else feels unsteady. Wake up at the same time, exercise, eat real food, keep your space clean. Those things might sound small, but they build order in your life, and that order becomes your foundation when the outside world is messy. Then I would encourage you to connect. Talk to real people, not avatars on a screen. Check on a neighbor, swap skills. The most powerful form of preparedness isn't just stockpiled in your garage, it's built in the trust that you have with those around you. And this one's going to be hard for some people, but I would encourage you to find ways to rest. Give yourself permission to unplug once in a while. You can't stay alert forever. Even the best generators need to cool off, and so do we. If you can control your inputs, you can maintain structure, you can build connections and allow yourself to rest, I think you'll be a lot more mentally tougher than most. And real strength, it doesn't come from never feeling fear, it comes from mastering it. And that's, I think, what's happening right now. It's not just economic or political, what we're seeing, I believe it's cultural. A quiet revolution of ordinary people deciding they're done waiting to be rescued. That's what we've been trying to teach on this community and on this channel for years. Not that any of you have had this mindset, I don't think, in our community, but others are waking up to this reality. And look, every week I hear from people starting gardens, cooking from scratch, saving little by little, teaching their kids how to handle tools and solve problems. And none of them are waiting for permission. They're just doing what needs to be done. We just finished a course in our online community, and it was incredible hearing the feedback from people making small, simple changes that are already improving their lives. If you're interested in joining that community, I'll post a link below. That's the mindset that really built this country, taking care of your own, lending a hand to your neighbor, and remembering that when systems fail, communities rise. So when I think about that viewer's comment, what's a tipping point? I don't see it as a warning anymore. It's a reminder the tipping point can go both ways. Things can fall apart or tip towards something better. It really depends what we do at this moment. If enough people choose self-reliance, integrity, and cooperation over blame and dependency, we're not doomed to repeat the same cycles. We can build something sturdier from the ground up. And preparedness, it's not about fear. It's about freedom. Freedom from panic, dependence, and the illusion that you may have to wait for someone else to fix things before you can move forward. And I know it's hard to stay hopeful in a time that we're like what we're living in right now, where we're surrounded by uncertainty. But I've seen what happens when people lean into preparedness the right way. They go from anxious to confident, from reactive to proactive. They stop obsessing over what might happen and they start focusing on what they can make happen. The systems that we've all become dependent on, that we've lived with for most of our life, they'll probably continue to stumble. The headlines may get louder in the coming months and years, but that doesn't have to define you. You can choose to be steady. You can choose to be grounded and ready, not because you're scared, but because you're capable. Look, none of us know what the next few months are going to bring, but we faced hard times before, and every single time, ordinary people pull through. We don't need permission to take action. We don't need another speech or another promise. What we need is resolve, the kind that starts with one person deciding, I'm not going to be caught off guard again. And that's how we build trust, not in the system, but in ourselves and each other. So my encouragement to you is this: take a deep breath, step back from the noise, focus on what's real, what's in front of you, and what you can actually change. I remember reading an article from a Navy SEAL individual that, one of the things that he learned in SEAL training was, despite everything that goes on around him, all the chaos, the only thing he has control over is the very thing in front of him, the thing that he can affect. And that's kind of the approach I've had to take in my own life lately. There's a lot of things that I'm dealing with, looking around, for example, this property thing, projects I want to get done, looking to the future. It feels uncertain, but I choose to focus on what I can actually affect, what's in front of me. And remember, the cracks in the system, they don't have to become cracks in your life. You can still be steady, and you can still be strong, and you can still lead by example. And let me just finish by saying this. We're going to get through this, and I mean that in all honesty. I'm not just trying to serve up platitudes here to you. We'll get through this together. I believe the next few years, again, based off everything I'm seeing, what you're seeing too, is going to be a high degree of uncertainty. What's happening right now. There's a lot of unknowns, but through it all, that's why I keep coming back to this community, because this is our mindset. We look at the future, and we don't allow ourselves to crumble under fear, but we choose to rise to the occasion. If you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to post that below, and as always, stay safe out there.